Welcome to No BS Game Guides. This is the first extreme trial on Final Fantasy DAWNTRAIL, and in this video I will try to guide you through the fight and simply explain how to deal with each and every mechanic. The first mechanic we will see is called Spikecicle, and it is a simple linear ground Aoe combined with some ice cubes that will explode in the same sequence they appear. The trick to dodging them is to watch where the first line heads and go the opposite way. You can pretty much follow your team and dodge on the fly, or if you want to depend on yourself, watch which ice cube has just exploded and dodge accordingly. Healers have to heal 2 big AoEs, and DPS can relax for about 25 seconds until the next mechanic, which will always be Volcanoes. There are 2 volcanoes left and right, and one of them will erupt. What you can do is turn your camera to see one of them and wait for the alarm text to appear. If the volcano you are watching isn't erupting after the alarm, it means you should run that way. If it erupts, you run the other way. Now, I want you to remember that after the volcano, you have to run on your positions. Before you start the trial, you all have chosen a position based on your role. Right after every volcano, you must remember to run to this position. The mechanic that follows is the only tricky one. The boss will do 1 out of 3 different attacks randomly, and you have to dodge accordingly. You can identify which attack it will do by reading the alarm text or watching the boss's animation. Number 1. If the alarm says Beak or the boss does a small dash back, it will strike with a cone Aoe that you have to dodge by running to the front edge of the platform. Since this is the hardest one to dodge, I suggest to always be prepared for this one and adjusting on the fly for the rest of them. Number 2, if the alarm says strength or if the boss glows red and comes in front of the arena, it will strike at a melee range. This means if you are a melee, you have to stop hitting if you don't want to get hit. And number 3, if the alarm says wind and the boss starts flying around in the arena and glows green, the boss will hit with a donut attack and you will have to stand in the middle of the arena. Let's now go back to the volcano mechanic. As I've said, you have to run to your position and get ready for one of these attacks, because right after the boss executes these attacks, you or your partner will explode. This means you have to be stacked with your designated partner to survive. After that, half of your team will be marked with ice and they just have to move until the time expires. Then comes the first tank buster. A circle will appear in the middle of the arena and the boss will strike 6 times. The tanks have to swap for each hit to survive, and the rest of the group must position themselves behind the tank relative to where the boss is looking. The boss's movement is random, so keep an eye on it. Right after that, you have to stack into 2 groups left and right to soak 3 fire AoEs that will leave a fire puddle behind. And after that, the rest of the team who didn't have ice marker the first time will be marked now. Then another volcano attack occurs, which you will dodge the same way. Again, keep in mind that after the volcano you must run to your position ASAP to share the explosion with your partner. And finally, you have to spread for a simple electric AoE. Next, you have around 15 seconds of free damage until the next major mechanic, which will always be adds. Nothing special here, kill the beacons as fast as possible, stay in line for the AoE, tanks should always be first in line, and that's it. Now, I believe it depends on how fast you will kill the adds, but after that, DPS and tanks have around 1 minute of free DPS until the next mechanic. The healers on the other hand will have to heal 4 raid-wide AoEs in a row before the phase change. There are 2 different phases and the order they appear is random. In this video, the wind phase will come first and the ice phase will come last. The wind phase begins and the first thing you wait is a fire Puddle Aoe that you have to soak with your group. So just go stand with your group and wait. After the fire puddles move anywhere you want, it doesn't matter. And the next mechanic is some proximity AoE that will explode back to back. All you have to do is to be as far as possible and dodge in the same sequence they will appear. When you reach your final destination, kill the feather closest to you to have a safe spot in the arena. We've seen the next mechanic before, lightnings have to spread and ice have to move. If lightning spreads on the ground and ice moves around elevated, you will be fine. Since this is an easy mechanic, I want you to remember that you should not relax and be prepared for the next attack, which will be one of the 3 random AoE attacks. You should dodge the same way as before. For Bleak, run to the edge, for Wind, stay in the middle, and for Strength, run back. The tricky part in this phase is that instead of a follow-up explosion that you have to share with your partner, this time you all leave a puddle behind you that will have to dodge. So, stuck with your team and run away right after the boss's attack. The puddle will be dropped at the location where you were standing when the boss's attack hit. Then electric portals will appear and there is only one safe lane to stand on. You can simply identify it by looking at the portals. Next, the simple ice and electric mechanic. And guess what's coming next? Another random boss attack without an alarm this time. So this time you have to rely on the boss's animation to dodge accordingly. Again, dodge the puddles you will drop and wait for the next phase. In the next phase, 2 towers will appear that will be soaked by tanks and a pushback will occur at the same time, but all of you can use your pushback immunity skill and keep DPSing. Then, after some raid-wide AoEs, you will move to the last phase. In this scenario, it will be the ice phase. After a regular raid-wide AoE, the tanks will have to run away from the group for an AoE tank buster, and the rest of the team will have to stack into 2 groups to soak a fire AoE. Then a new mechanic is coming up, let's call it Avalance. It's basically a pushback plus some heavy damage AoE coming from left or right that you can identify by just looking behind. Combined with our favorite attack, Bleak Wind or Strength. Basically, I want you to remember that on the first Avalance, which is an easy to dodge mechanic, there will be a combined attack from the boss. What I do is basically ignore the Avalance mechanic in my head, follow the team and focus on the boss animation. In previous phases, you had to remember to run at your position after this attack. In this phase, you have to run at your position as well. Only this time, your position is in a safe spot to dodge the attacks from the portals that will spawn. The safe spot is pretty easy to find. If mark number 1 has no portals on it, then the safe spot is at A. And if the number 1 portal has portals on it, the safe spot is on the other side at B. Spread for electric AoE after that. Then it might look chaotic, but it's actually the same Spikecicle mechanic you dealt with at the start of the fight, but you will have to be careful about an extra Avalance. After that, you have some time for free damage until the last Bleak Wind or Strength attack. Remember, in this phase, after this attack, you will expect portals and you will have to run to your safe spot. One of the last mechanics that you will notice only if you see the boss's cast bar is Freezing Dust, which will freeze anyone who is not moving. And after that you simply spread for an AoE again. Lastly, there will be another AoE tank buster for both your tanks, followed by some raid-wide AoEs, and finally the same tank swap buster we saw before. And that's it for the first extreme trial of DAWNTRAIL. If you like this video, please leave your feedback, since this is the first raid guide that I make, and of course subscribe if you want to see more. In any case, thank you for watching and see you on the next video.